and welcome to Thursday Night Live here on Inside Texas. Wow, taxes. It's not tax season yet. It's not April yet, but
Taxes.
yeah, I'm just getting on it. Inside Texas, with Fanatic Perspective. My man Steve in the house. How we doing, brother?
Doing well, man. Ready to talk some ball. Hope springs eternal. Good to be here, brother.
Yeah, always good to catch up with you, my man. And again, if y'all haven't done so yet, go on ahead and hop on over to Inside Texas because plenty of practice updates. You got some great. Today was a Q&A with Eric. If you guys haven't seen that, you go in there, ask him anything. He gives an honest assessment. Always a fun time when he's doing that. But again, find all types of articles. Obviously, you got IT here on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere else. But thanks for being with us, guys. Go ahead and throw a like on the video if you don't mind. But let's get to it, man. We're going to obviously Texas has had a couple of football practices, seen a lot of clips, we've seen articles, we've seen all the works. Before we get to a couple guys in particular that I want your opinions on, what's been like the main takeaway? And again, not trying to overreact to a couple of days of non-padded football practices, but your main takeaway from what you've seen or heard from the first couple of days in Austin, man.
I think two things for me. First off, just the explosiveness offensively, right? The emphasis on the running backs, right? A lot of new faces in the running back room with Hollywood Smothers, with Raleek Brown, with Derek Cooper coming in, and the physical profile, how they look, right? Obviously, there's a lot of talk about the receivers. We'll talk about Jermaine Bishop in particular here in a little bit. But just how explosive they look, right? I mean, there's a lot of giddiness to see the comment around Cam Coleman and just seeing these guys run around in Texas colors and interacting amongst each other is brought a breath of excitement, especially once Arches is back full go practicing with the team. So that's the first thing on the offensive side. I think on the defensive side, we've just heard a lot of names, right? A lot of guys rotating in. I think I'm paying a lot more attention, quite frank with you, to the defensive side, knowing Will Muschamp here, Blake Gideon, and those guys Blake Gideon in his case getting reacclimated with the DBs, but also instilling a new culture of physicality, a culture of man coverage, a culture of more of an aggressive mindset defensively. So, we'll know more when the pads come on and things of that sort. But right now, I mean, I think there's some promising reports coming from both sides of the ball.
Yeah, no, that's well said, man. And there's going to be more change to the first 11 on offense than there is on defense as far as personnel. But the defense is the one that's going through like the real change, in my opinion. Like a lot of these offensive concepts are things that these guys have done, growing up, and they're going to, this all going to gel and flow together a little bit. Do you think there's any chance the offense will be a little bit ahead of the defense as they get, a little bit acclimated with the Will Muschamp system? And again, like you said, I mean, they're going through a big time change in some respects, like you just said, and physicality and culture might be the biggest two. And I mean, again, you saw how quickly it seemed like Will, had that rolling with Texas in his first season. It seemed like he had an immediate effect on that program when he got to Austin, back in his first in that first season. So, but do you think the offense might be a little bit ahead of the defense once they start getting ready for spring game action and they're actually scrimmaging a little bit?
Yeah, I do. I do. Even with Arch still being outstanding in that situation, especially the positive things and the strides that one KJ Lacey has made in particular at the quarterback position. So I definitely think that the offense should be. I expect them to be ahead,
Well, hope so.
and I would hope so. Right? I mean, there's continuity on that side. Yes, it's plug and play to your point with some of the new faces, but they've seemed to have upgraded a lot of the things that they want to upgrade with the weapons. Now, the offensive line is a different story, right? And there's some transition going on there. Brandon Baker is going to have to come along. Jaden Chapman is getting snaps at center. He's kind of moving all over the place. You got Dylan Sikorsky trying to get integrated. Seymour is still working at Western Kentucky on his degree before he even comes over. So he's not even going to be here in the spring. So there's a lot of transition within the offensive line to cause pause, as well as the quarterback thing. even with all of that, I still expect them to be moving at a pace a little bit higher than the defense. Because think about it this way too: all of the voices, the central nervous system of the defense are gone. All the voices. So you're also having to find your leaders, right? I'm not saying that they're not there, but you're having to find your leaders.
Yep.
Rich Miles, I expect him to be a leader, but he's coming into a new situation, new teammates. He's right now, Anthony Smith is out, so you're lining up next to a true freshman most of these snaps. Your guys in the back, Jelani McDonald, Derek Williams, they're veterans, but they haven't been the vocal leaders like a Michael Tapp has been.
Right.
The only leader you really have on the defense that is vocal like that is Colin Simmons. So, and as they're going through this transition, I'm giving them grace really until the summer as they're installing and relearning, not even relearning, learning new everything from what they were taught under Pete Kwiatkowski.
Yeah, that's a really good point, man. And again, having leaders, can go a long way in helping installs and having guys that can take over. There is some more Michael Taff, and there's communication, is one thing that you really hope with the secondary doesn't drop off a little bit. And so, hey, is it going to be Jelani McDonald? Is it going to be Derek Williams, who's been with this program and had some trials and tribulations, via injury that he's had to battle through? Is it his turn to lead? Hey, maybe it's a fresh and new face in Bo Mascow. Like who's ready to lead these guys? Again, Colin Simmons, is a guy that I think clearly is going to be a leader for this defense. Is Lance Jackson on the other side? Is he another one? Is it Ty Smith? So who steps up? Who helps lead? Again, it's fun to see Will Muschamp back in town. Yeah, I want to ask you about a couple different guys because they're young, but man, they look really, really good. Really, really dang good. So obviously everybody right now is kind of raving and ranting about Jermaine Bishop. I've already been accused of being on the Burn Orange media train because of my hype for Jermaine Bishop. But you saw Des Bryant. We talked about this on the last night's show. But you saw Des Bryant come out and give high praise for Jermaine. You've seen guys, different media call him Xavier Worthy 2.0. There's been just nothing but sterling reports. It's that, hey man, are we doing too much? We're not wearing pads, or on the flip side of that, do you see him being able to make an early impact and a big impact in just year one with Sarkisian and the Texas offense?
I'm glad I'm here. What a time to be alive because I have receipts. Okay, Cord, I have receipts.
Your seats are fun.
During the Miami playoff, I think it was Miami and Ole Miss, I tweeted during the game, Sark, you have another Malachi Tony-ish player coming in that you're going to get in that's coming into your program. As long as he is able to handle the workload, he needs to be featured. I've been on record on that, at least publicly. I've felt this way for a while, even before the playoff game. But just seeing Malachi Tony at Miami, who was probably the best freshman receiver in the country last year, probably one of the best, most electric players in the country last year, went over 1,000 yards. That kid was a true freshman last year, 17 years old, was just a 3-star recruit. Now, some publications had him at 4-star, but I believe On3 had him as a 3-star recruit. And Mario Cristobal did not block access to him earning the right to get on the field if he was ready to do the work and be showcased with Carson Beck. And the rest is history. That Notre Dame game, opening game of the season, I think he had 6 catches for like 80 or 90 yards, and it was off and running from there. Mm-hmm. I am not saying that Jermaine Bishop is going to come in here and have a 1,000-yard season his freshman year. I'm not saying he's going to come in here and have, what did Worthy have, like 140 targets his freshman year or something crazy like that? Like, obviously there's an abundance of weapons and guys that can do all sorts of things, including Cam Coleman, okay? Right. But what he gives you is a problem for the defense. He is a matchup nightmare, and he is polished. He is much more polished than so many young players, the nuance. And that's what Des Bryant was really pointing out in multiple tweets last night from a technical perspective. And that is something, yes, you can notice in shorts. Yes, the shoulder movement. This is something that Tom Brady pointed out when he was in the booth at Fox, when he was saying how JSN is different from all of these other receivers because of his shoulder turn. But you don't. He's like, you have no idea if he's running out or in. And just as a DB, a lot of times you're taught to split the difference. But when you have a guy that has no tell, it's really difficult. And that's something that Xavier Worthy had early in his career on so many breaking routes, especially the OU game where he went crazy, right? I mean,
Right.
Jermaine Bishop can do a lot of those things. And all I was saying, and I reiterated this last month on social media, when I said, guys, even if you just start with the package in non-conference, Malachi Tony, Miami was just putting the ball in his hands. Early Xavier Worthy, we were just putting the ball in his hands. Xavier Worthy, freshman year OU game, he scored on bubble screen on the first play.
Most electric play of the game for Texas, and it came on a very simple concept. Yep.
Very simple. Ball in his hand, go. Now the stuff that we're seeing on on from practice, where has the ball tracking skills and all these other things, that's where I'm like, guys, this is a different animal, because people push back on me in this fan base last month when I was gassing this dude up, saying, hey, well, why are we bypassing guys like Ryan Niblett, right, who was an electric punt returner? And what I was trying to explain was there's a different level of movement and technical aspect to receiver work versus somebody being fast and electric as a return man. No disrespect to Ryan Niblett, no disrespect to some of the other brothers on the roster, young,
Bro,
or even some of the veterans.
They're going to think I paid you to come on here and say this, because last week I got on here and was like, listen, it's all love for Nibs. Love it. It's all love. But Jermaine's got to have a package. And I was like, I would have Jermaine returning kicks too from day one. And people got on, hey, Ryan won us 3 games. And I was like, yes. And if he won us 3 more, I'd be the first to apologize and the first to you crow. But I'm that high on Jermaine. So they're going to sit here and say, hey, you wouldn't found Steve to come back up everything you were saying because we got on you. But no,
that's why I said the receipts are there.
Trust this man. He's been saying it. He's got bigger receipts than that.
Literally during the Miami game, I'm like, guys, we can do the same thing next year. The problem, one of the issues, and this is where I'm also at, by the way, with another young player, and Khalil Lockett, right? I understand he's not going to have as many opportunities. He's going to be kind of in an apprenticeship behind Cam Coleman. But take advantage of the momentum from the bowl game. Take advantage of, there's a reason why he's back, right? They've made a point to go with the more concentrated approach with NIL and how they're giving access to these players and wanting to get a bigger bang for their buck. Well, these guys have skill sets that tilt the field, right? Cam Coleman is going to take a safety with him. If he's running post cord, he's taking a safety with him, right? Somebody's going with him. If you have guys like Ryan Wingo, guys like Jermaine Bishop running, let's just say digs or crosses underneath, brother, the field is tilted. There's no defense out here that has enough speed collectively across the board and coverage ability to deal with all of that on a consistent basis. No, sir. So you put yourself in a really, really nice situation if you're Steve Sarkisian and Arch Manning to really, really, really dissect defenses in a crazy manner and do whatever you want, whether they're playing off or they're playing up.
Yeah, no, that's really, really well said. And with all of the speed and athleticism and talent Texas has in this wide receiver room, you have to think there's going to be a lot of defenses that are trying to play bend but don't break against Texas. Maybe choose their their timing to be aggression very carefully, or to be aggressive very carefully. But that kind of goes against what Brent Venables in Oklahoma like to do. That goes against what Texas A&M and Mike Elko like to do. And so, you're making them go away from who you want to be or who they want to be. And, Texas is going to have, again, and I don't think it's just Jermaine Bishop that, creates a matchup nightmare. But when you talk about the 2 backs that Steve mentioned early in the show, and the speed that they bring, and you talk about Cam Coleman, obviously, and the assumed improvement of Ryan Wingo, who we know works hard. He missed a lot of time last offseason. the injury. And so we need to get Ryan back, and when we get going again, have him ready and rolling by the time the season comes. But again, like Steve just said, it's going to be tilted. It's going to be really, really tough. But Jermaine in particular, I see a world, and there was a comment today on Inside Texas. I don't know if it's Eric or who made it, but talking about like having packages, particularly with Cam Coleman, Ryan Wingo, and Jermaine Bishop on the field.
Yes.
And theoretically, you could do that, and you could go out there and you could run 11 personnel. You could have Nick Townsend as an H-back, your tight end, or you could go out and you could have both backs out there and run some 20 personnel. And from Inside Texas reports by Joe Cook and Evan Beath, they've ran some 20 personnel first couple of days of practice. That excites me, man. Like that's a fast, lethal guys who can catch and finish plays. Now, you still got to have another line. Joshy, my man, your comment enough. I got to get this up there. I'm sorry. He said he's ready to say the offensive lineman will be better than okay. I'm assuming that's because the Lawrence Seymour waiver would get, granted, and he'd be allowed to play this year for Texas. I'm assuming on that, but you and I talk a lot. We'll have to talk about that. We should have just got you on here tonight. But again, I feel good that the O-line, it can't be, and I sound rude when I say this. I'm not trying to sound rude. It can't be worse than it was last year. By the time things were all said and done, I thought that unit, they're giving full effort. The penalties were a big issue. So like, that's something that I think we've got to clean up. And that alone, I mean, how many yards a game are we picking up and holding and false start penalties? It felt like a minimum of, a couple dozen to many more. That alone makes you a better unit in my eyes, but they're going to pass protect well. But what do they look like in the run game? That's going to be the big question for me. Can they move bodies? I do have a question about the run game real quick, but first I want to go ahead and get to our first ad break of the night. So let's hear from, Andre the Lawyer. There you are, my friend. Be right back, guys.
Texans know when you're injured, there's one name that gets results. Andre the Lawyer. Trust the team that has secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans win their injury cases. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, wrongful deaths. Don't let the insurance companies tell you what your claim is worth. Andre the Lawyer will fight for you. His principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait. Call 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. Contact info is in the description.
Just real quick, right before I hit that ad break, my kid's birthday was last Friday. One of my three kids, last Friday, and Grandma sent him some money to go spend, and he wanted to go to Target because he wanted this Lego set. Ends up going and buying a ton of tennis stuff. Like, bro, not know anything about tennis. He's 6 years old, but he was like, I just want to hit the tennis ball. So now he just smoked the mirror or the window right beside me. Like, it's good. The mirror is good, but I flinched a little bit. So my apologies, but mad lad, man. But I do want to ask you about this. So, and again, I believe it was Joe Cook of Inside Texas who reported that Texas was really focusing as their first run install on the outside zone. Like, how do you feel about that? Like, we've talked a little bit before about running between the tackles, maybe leaning on some, the duo, the inside zone, the Texas and Kyle Flood, Steve Sarkisian have run the pass, Brad over from Alabama. There's so many offensive teams, so many spread teams, they really do hammer and focus on inside zone. What are your thoughts on that? Does it matter to you? Are you cool with outside zone, wide zone as well? And just your overall thoughts there.
I'm cool with it if we block it and we're physical with the intention, like Sean McVay and the Los Angeles Rams run it, right? Those are teams that are really good at running those that are outside zone based teams, right? The Shanahan system, going back to Alex Gibbs and Mike Shanahan, right? Like, those are all outside zone based schemes, and Sark is one of those guys that have studied within that culture. The difference is when they get in the red zone, they still handle their business. They can still run duo and some of the inside runs to get the dirty yards, right? So with that being said, I think what Texas decided to do is, with the uptick of experience at the quarterback position and his decision-making and managing the line of scrimmage, let's get some backs that can maximize space. It doesn't, because one thing about outside zone that we weren't getting on last year with the backs is, and no disrespect to those guys, but they weren't able to maximize when something did open up once or twice a game. They weren't able to maximize and hit on it for that 40 or 50 plus yard run.
Right.
And so it's like, hey, let's at least get back to excelling in that area, i.e., what we had with Jaden Blue and even a Jonathan Brooks. Ideally, you'd like to get back to more of that efficiency that you had in 2023, where he was such a surgical runner and being able to cut back. Now, the thing I'm excited about, especially with Smothers, he is an efficient inside runner. He can do those things.
Yeah. He's got good size. Yeah.
Right. And then you got guys like Derek Cooper and others that will come along. We got to, make sure ball security is not a concern. But ultimately, as long as Texas is able to be explosive, the reason why I'm saying this is because realistically, I don't see us being this dominant phone booth gap run in your face line. Until I see it, I don't believe it. I don't, because we just haven't been that with this staff. We have been a good running team up until last year by being really, really good on outside zone and then having some of the cutback runs and some of the things that developed from there. Last year was just, a mess. But if we can at least be efficient there and maximize, and these backs are here to maximize that explosiveness, then I'm cool with that, right? I mean, they're not going to be a perfect offense, but even in red zone, it's going to still be challenging with having a threat like Cam Coleman, having guys that can get out in space and flick the ball out there and then arch his legs as well. So as long as that we're good there, I think Texas will be fine.
Yeah, that's well said, man. I mean, you talk about the backs and what they can provide. By default, their talent should raise the level of the O-line play a little bit, at least to, the common eye, because we have backs who, like you said last year, weren't really successful at getting to the second and third level. Think about the Ohio State game. The offensive line did a good job blocking, especially on counter. It looked really good. But we couldn't break a tackle to save our life. A shoestring tackle brought us down 10 out of 10 times in Columbus. Now you go look at a couple of other games and, maybe A&M or Oklahoma, we broke off a couple of chunk runs, but that's because they're putting so many bodies around the line of scrimmage. There's one gap you get through. I mean, like the second level was already the third level. Like it just, again, so you can't look at those games and be like, okay, that's who we are. That's who we're guaranteed to be. You need to see an improvement there. You got to be more physical at the line of scrimmage. You got to be stronger at the point of attack, and if you can do those things and run inside just a little bit, the roof could really come off this thing, because I think that I think we'll see enough improvement from our tight ends in the outside zone, the wide zone concepts between Nick Townsend, Spencer Shannon, and Emery Owens. You're going to see enough improvement there. And then the transfer of Mike Masunas to where maybe that helps that they run up by default, just you can run up the middle a little bit easier. But man, if we just improve a little on the interior on that offensive line, it can move some bodies. Like that to me is where it gets really, really dangerous, because you might see a lot of teams that play bend but don't break, and maybe they keep three defenders over the top, they play the umbrella or the three high defense, the flyover. You might see that. Well, last year, hey, you could get away with that, because for one, we couldn't really pass protect sometimes, whether it was 3 or 4 people coming at the passer.
Right.
Other times where, we're burying ourselves with penalties, so we're not going to sustain a drive to get down the football field. But then again, we have backs. If you're trying to run the ball and the offensive line does a decent job, we have backs that really weren't making anybody miss outside of, again, a couple of games. And so where's a weakness now? You start talking about if, and that's if. This is a big if. You have improvement on that interior, what do things look like? It becomes really difficult to defend Texas, because I think with Cam Coleman, we've only scratched the surface of what he can do, considering the quarterback play, offensive line play that he was a part of. That was a part of that program when he was at Auburn, because again, people have been hard on those quarterbacks, but those offensive lines at Auburn have been pretty damn stinky at the same time. So like you got to call it how it is. So that both things can hurt a quarterback, both things can hurt a wide receiver. And so excited to see what Cam Coleman can do. You think Ryan Wingo should be improved, and I'm not saying that he was bad or anything, but we know that he was far from
second team all SEC.
Yeah,
Ryan Wingo last season
and finished with a bang. So, hey, what is Emmett Mosley? What does he look like? And it's, maybe hopefully a full healthy, year with Texas, and where he gets is healthy coming into the season, because we're probably going to need him. Day McCutcheon, Eric talked today about Day and him kind of, being the more dangerous of the two guys as far as getting vertical. And then the guy that we've been talking about, and Josh, said, hey, he's the closest thing to Devontae Smith. That's, again, the compliments are flying, man. As far as wide receiver one in year one, I'd be pretty shocked. But again, I think you're going to see a pretty heavy dispersion amongst this Texas wide receiving core. You're going to see maybe Cam Coleman, eats more in the red zone. There might be other guys that have some bigger chunk plays, like think of Wingo in the screen game. If Texas continues to have success there, which again, if you improve in the run game, and a lot of these teams are playing flyover defenses, like the screen game is going to be a big part of Sarkisian's offense always. But what do you think? I mean,
Yeah,
give me a pecking order as far as what you think that the catch, the reception volume will look like, a pecking order. Like, do you think Cam leads us in receptions and Wingo? Is it Mosley? Is it Day-Day? Is it Lockett? What are you thinking? Give me a top 4.
So I definitely think Cam, I think it's going to be kind of similar. I'm a Cowboys fan, and I've been kind of using this analogy. Hey, it's all good, man. But I've been using the analogy of George Pickens last season, right? Because regardless of how you feel about it, he was an all-pro receiver last year. And he went from basically playing in a poverty offense at Pittsburgh and people questioning his ability to run the whole route tree and his effort and all these type of things. And he was an 900-yard receiver. Still was known for big playability, but what else does he do, right? If he's not catching deep balls, is he engaged, blah, 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 right, to a 1,400-yard double-digit touchdown type of player. Am I saying Cam Coleman's going to put up those type of numbers? I think he can be a 1,000-yard receiver in the Texas offense if he's healthy. I really do. I do think he can be a double-digit touchdown receiver. I think Texas, especially because of Arch Manning and his decision-making, where he got to at the end of the last season, and the diversity of routes that Cam Coleman will now be able to run in this offense. So I see him having a terrific season, assuming he's healthy. The rest of the distribution is going to be interesting because Ryan Wingo, that's somebody who I just expect to eat based upon the opportunity away from the attention. And now you throw in Bishop, and now you throw in, like you mentioned, Emmett Mosley. I do think it's going to be kind of a case-by-case basis, right? If people start playing, you talked about 3 high, right? People start playing that way. Well, I actually think Malachi Tony, because I'm already picturing Jermaine Bishop, but that's what they do, right? That's what Miami used to do with Malachi Tony, is you playing off, I'm throwing underneath with those screens. I'm going to eat you up to death. Oh, by the way, we have 2 running backs that are also very good pass catchers too. Right. Remember, 2 years ago with Quinn Ewers, and this was more of a Quinn Ewers thing, but you had 2 different running backs catch over 40 passes. That's still a part of Sark's offense. We're still going to see 2 back, probably a lot of 2 back, right? So those guys are going to be catching the ball out of the backfield quite a bit. I also expect Arch just to, as he gets older, same thing happened with Quinn. You learn how to be boring sometimes based upon what the defense is giving you. If I have an 8-yard check down in the flats to Hollywood, I'm taking it. Because y'all are so freaking out about all these speedsters I have running around or somebody getting lost. And meanwhile, I'm just working the ball down the field with the backs, right? And so, because that's the other thing. I think Arch's completion percentage is probably going to go up, hopefully north of 68%, right? He was in the low 60s last year. Just the decision-making alone, his completion percentage should skyrocket. So I think Cam is going to eat up. I mean, he was getting 700 yards at Auburn with, somebody like us throwing the ball and Jackson Arnold. What happens now when you have the number 1 overall pick for the 2027 draft delivering you the football, and he's now going into his Andrew Luck era? What is this going to look like, Court? I mean, I'm excited, and I know the Kool-Aid is flowing tonight, ladies and gentlemen. The Kool-Aid is flowing. But seriously, when we look at the matchups, and I know we get into the stats, there's going to be some games where Cam might have 4 catches for 50 yards, and we go 50 and still go belt to ass on somebody because Jermaine cribbed the 80-yarder and Wingo took a reverse to the house, and the running backs ended up catching 10 passes. And Arch still had 4 or 5 touchdowns. You're going to have some of those games. So it's just as long as everybody's comfortable with, we are going to tilt the field just with us being there. Everybody, as long as everybody's doing their job, there's going to be some games where we eat, and there's going to be some teams that say we feel like we have the personnel to guard y'all straight up. Those are going to be the games where Cam Coleman goes for 150 yards.
Right.
So,
yeah, there's going to be teams that challenge you because, I mean, again, like that's just human being nature. Like you're not going to sit there as a coach and play passive against an offense after you've watched there and watched on tape and watched other teams. Maybe Arch is dissecting on me. You're taking that 8-yard check down to one of these backs. Well, that 8 can become 12, 15, 20, or crib call real damn fast with the speed that these two backs have. Now, one thing I want to ask you before we kind of get to another ad break real quick here is, what are your thoughts on, because there's kind of been some talk on IT about Texas maybe being a little bit of a team that's going to win some games like 27-17, 24-10, and beat these good teams like you did against Oklahoma, last year, like you did against A&M the last 2 years, where you're winning some low scoring kind of grind out games, you're using your run game. Well, to me, man, this team kind of strikes me as the first really addition of all gas, no brakes, because there's so much speed on this offense. And I don't really know, like you said, believe it when we see it, about being able to line up and power run the football on the interior and move bodies around, pick up the hard yards. Or do we still have to be fancy and a little bit gimmicky at times on 3rd and 2 or 4th and 2 or 4th and 1, not like I'm not calling this a gimmick offense, but there's times where we're getting a little bit too cute. And so, can we move people? Because that's going to be another thing. To me, I'll believe it when I see it. And so what I'm asking is is this an offense that can go in and lead the country in scoring because of how many possessions we're going to get? Because in my opinion, I think we could have some really, really short drives with a couple of big plays in there.
I think this should be the most explosive offense we've probably had. 2021, as crappy as we were, that was a very explosive offense with Casey Thompson and freshman Xavier Worthy. 2023, I think we averaged north of 35 points per game. I think my focus is kind of more on the 2023, the last year we were in the Big 12, but where we were at the end of that season. Do y'all remember the end of the season when everybody kind of got healthy and we were cooking, right? Like Keelan Robinson was housing stuff, and we were putting up 50-something points on Tech. Then we went and put up 50-something. Like that to me is where my head kind of goes. And again, it goes A, back to the quarterback, but B, to Victor's point here, because this is kind of where I'm getting at. To me, it's more important in the big games. It's not even the rushing yard output or anything like that, because like you said, in the Ohio State game last year, technically they ran the ball well. But when they needed yards, they couldn't get it.
Can't do it.
Because Ohio State was playing them a certain way, right? We'll concede, straight up on 1st down. But when it gets to 3rd and 2, can we get the dirty yards, right? Yeah. However we do it. Do we have an efficient manner? Are we not we were 130-something in penalties last season. So to me, they have all the potential in the world to lead the country in scoring offense if the offensive line is just simply better than last year and competent. With the uptick at quarterback, with the explosiveness all over the place, we didn't have this type of explosiveness last year, and Arch was still figuring stuff out as well, right? So it was a perfect storm of a lot of things. I'm putting this back at Steve Sarkisian's feet. He decided to really kind of leave the offensive staff untouched. He basically made it more of a personnel thing, and my quarterback needed to get older. But I need to see us at least humming like we were in 2023, when Jonathan Brooks was here, when JT Sanders was here, and they were at least consistently getting in the 30s, right? Yeah. And so if that's what Texas can be in the SEC, I think that's a team that is competing for an SEC championship at the end of the season, quite frankly. I also this is another thing, and I was going to mention so earlier with the running backs. Them focusing on getting the blocking receivers, because that was as big a problem as anything last year too. We talk about the offensive line, but to run outside zone, especially as much as Sark wants to still play 12 personnel, you have to have tight ends that are able to do that within the framework. And they really struggle with that from a blocking perspective. The stuff you were starting to hear about Masunis, the development of guys like Nick Towson, Spencer Shannon's still looks like, the guy looks like Thor. Yeah. If he could give us anything physically, right? Like now you're really cooking with gas on the perimeter with getting physical and getting those explosive plays off. But the question is still going to be, to Victor's point, in the big games, the biggest of games, can you get the dirty yards? Can you stay clean penalty-wise? And can you score? You don't have Georgia on the schedule this year, right? But the Ohio State game, you scored 7 points in Columbus last year. We need to start having conversations. We should be leaving the season court saying, y'all must have forgot when with Steve Sarkisian in terms of the offensive mastermind conversations, right? No more excuses. I need him back in the offensive mastermind conversations.
You got all the toys. You got all the toys in the world. No world is perfect, so you got some question marks on your offensive line. But, man, you sure looking around the skill talent that Sark has. You look at the quarterback position, running backs, wide receivers. He's got growing tight ends who are willing blockers, will hopefully become more capable. Technique matters a lot, and that was an issue at times. Guys needed to be a little bit, deeper into their bag in the weight room. Hadn't been on campus long enough to do so. They'll grow. I feel good about the tight end room. It's time. There is no more excuses. And one thing I will say is Texas isn't. I had to answer my own question, which was a dumb one. They're not going to lead the nation in scoring, but exactly like Steve said, you go score in the high 30s in the SEC. You're cooking with gas. You're up against some of the best defensive talent and minds in the entire country. And, that's doing things really, really well. You're going to be a college football playoff team, and you might, find yourself in Atlanta with that type of output on the offensive side. Okay, real quick, guys, we're going to go our second ad break of the night. We'll come back and finish this show off, have another probably 20 or so minutes here, but let's hear from Mr. David McClellan.
Big financial decisions don't have to feel overwhelming. There's someone who can guide you every step of the way. David McClellan is a fiduciary financial advisor with Forum Financial, and he's working closely with his clients as a true financial life coach, guiding every aspect of your financial journey with expertise and care. If his name sounds familiar, that's because David was a swimmer at Texas and a member of several national championship teams. Today, he channels that same championship mindset into helping people win with their finances. David specializes in financial planning, and he's contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. And right now, David is offering viewers a free intro consultation to assess your financial situation. Do not miss this chance to get personalized guidance from a trusted expert. To schedule your free consult, email David at dmcclellan@forumfinancial.com, or you can call him directly at 312-933-8823. The contact info is in the description.
All right, man. We've had some spring football talk, but again, it's just a couple of days of practice for Texas. So we're gonna pivot. We're gonna go to the hardwood. March Madness. It is officially tournament time.
I want to make one more comment about the offense.
Okay. No, let it rip.
I'm not saying you're right. We don't need to lead the nation in scoring. But 2025 Ole Miss for me is a good goal. Their offense did not go below 24 points in any game last season. Number one. Number two, they only had 3 games where they didn't score 30. And that's going to be necessary, especially earlier in the season as the defense is ramping. As the defense, buy them some time. Just like Georgia's defense was pretty young last year, and then by midway through the SEC schedule, they started cooking with gas, and by the end, when they played us, they were actually pretty good compared to what they were early on. Muschamp's going to need some time. He's not coming in with incumbents like the offense is. So they need to cook immediately. This needs to be the roll out of bed 30-point offense, just like Ole Miss was last year. That's kind of my other example of what this Texas offense should be capable of in 2026. But I'm ready to talk basketball.
Well, real quick, give me 20 first half points versus Ohio State week 2. Let me see them come out with some fire. You know what I mean? Anyways, okay. These ladies deserve to be talked about because, again, they're playing some good basketball and they are the SEC tournament champions. But you love basketball, man. You do a great job of covering basketball. I love to see you talk about it. I love to see you tweet about it. The Texas ladies, you know, I mean, they've been knocking on the door for a little while. But in my opinion, you know, they just been a little bit outside of maybe that absolute top tier of teams that could win a national championship, you know, just the last couple of seasons. And I'm not so sure I can say that anymore, man. These ladies are right there. It looks like they belong with just about anybody. What are your thoughts? You know, is this team, you know, are they capable of cutting some nets down and doing it? Which, again, you know, you got to go win 6 games. But, man, when they are focused and really locked in on the defensive end, which is more often than not, and you have to be under Coach Vic Schaefer, man, they really do grind these teams down. And then through time, they've added more and more weapons down on the other end of the floor.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I can't say enough how proud I am of them winning the SEC this year. I think that's just an enormous accomplishment for Vic Schaefer and this bunch, especially with respect to Dawn Staley and what she's built at South Carolina. I mean, it's kind of like Bama in football, where the tournament's known as the South Carolina Invitational, essentially, right? And so being able to get that done, I know we were, you know, there was some ties last year and all this type of stuff, but the way they beat South Carolina, right? The physicality in which they played, the shot making of Madison Booker, who's ascending to Mount Rushmore hooper at Texas, period, right? TJ Ford, Kevin Durant, like, she's had an unbelievable career. She has a Big 12 championship. She, as a freshman, SEC championship. You know, I know there's a lot of debate about All-American teams, and I don't know how that's going to go, if she's second team or whatever, but she gives us a chance with the shot making. And the reason why I say that is I think Texas is going to cruise, you know, they're going to be a 1 seed, and they're probably going to cruise to around the Elite 8 round, right? Sweet 16, Elite 8, where now, okay, and they were in the Final Four last year, but one of the things where we got exposed was the lack of shooting and just the overall diversity of offense that is needed in the women's game to advance past that level. I think me and you were talking about this a year ago, right? So what changes? Can Lee give us, you know, continue to ascend? Can Aaliyah continue with her shooting? Because there's still the only nitpick is still the same nitpick I've had, and it's the reason why they haven't been able to have the big breakthrough, is you still got to score. That's where UConn is kind of on a lane in their own, is the shooting. And like, you look at UConn shooting splits across like 7 or 8 girls, they're getting to 80 plus, and they're shooting at you know, 50% from the field, you know, 40%. Like, it's kind of scary how efficient they are. Whereas Texas can go in some of these games and only have 2 or 3 threes. And yeah, you can grind people, but you're not grinding those teams to the point you need to match and you need to score. And so can they do that at that level? They're so good that's the level we're nitpicking at this point, because I expect them to get back to the Final Four again. Are we not expecting, at minimum, at this point?
At minimum, right?
Trying to break through the door. And are they on the same tier as UConn and UCLA and those the 2 like Goliaths, or are we gonna, you know, kind of fall short again? And it's like, man, we were great. We got to the Final Four. We won the SEC, but then we got there and we couldn't shoot. You know, I hate to oversimplify it, Core, but you tell me what you're seeing.
No, I'm with you, man. That's it. I mean, that as a guy that wanted to get off 30 shot attempts a game, baby, like, hey, I understood the point of basketball. You want to outscore the other team and to put the ball in the basket, you got to do that. You know what I mean? So that's somewhat, no, it's not somewhat. That's definitely my big question mark as well. Can Texas, especially against those good teams, can you get the help from a Jordan Lee? Now, I will say this in their defense. Jordan Lee stepped up. I want to say it was like the Kentucky game and a couple other games, but one game in particular, and basically won it for us on the offensive end. What, it wasn't the Kentucky game. I think did we lose that one, or do we? Man, I'm struggling now because that game was a nightmare roller coaster. Yeah, I feel like we dropped. Did we drop the Kentucky game at home? Jordan Lee played really well in that one. But anyways,
we lost to Vanderbilt, South Carolina, LSU.
That's right. Yeah, so we won the Kentucky and come back at home. But Jordan Lee was big in that. Wow. And again, you've had Aaliyah Crump who stepped up and is a big part of a big run early in a game at a time. Another game I'm forgetting. I mean, watching these ladies again, you say you're so proud, man. I feel like it's just so easy to get behind these girls. It's so very likable, so easy to root for defense. The heart, the passion they play with, you know what I mean? And then obviously Vic Schaefer and all of his rallying cries, and I'm all about all that. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously, you're it feels like your leader, you have Rory, you have Maddie, and you have Maddie who can get you late into a shot clock and hit a big bucket. But man, sometimes it just feels like Texas has to work so hard to score in comparison to like maybe a UCLA or comparison to a UConn. And so that's what I want to see. Have we closed the gap there? And what do we look like? And I definitely agree with you as far as you might get a slight, challenge in the Sweet 16 if you go out there and you don't play very well and you can't make any shots and you catch yourself, in a low scoring, scrappy defensive game. But that Elite Eight is probably where you really do get tested a little bit, and you're probably going to have to go play well to put somebody away kind of early. Because there are going to be some good 2 seeds out there, 3 seeds. I'm curious to see who they stick with Texas. Will it be a Duke? Will it be an Oklahoma who's out there? What do they decide to do? Is that could be an all-time crazy regional final if they stuck Oklahoma as a 2 seed in the Fort Worth regional with Texas as a 1 seed. I mean, hey, they want to sell tickets and some merch and everything else like that. That could be a big move. So. But no, they again, it's a really good group. I think like Bree Cunningham has just stepped up and had a massive game. You have all these ladies, Kyla who can step up and put the ball in the bucket. You gotta have to rebound, but just score the bucket. That's all we need. Score the basketball. Everything's going to get a lot easier for Vic Schaefer and those ladies if they continue to do that. But yeah, real proud of the way that they played. And again, you want to peak at the right time. You want to be hot when it matters. And so hopefully they keep that, got a little bit of a break, but want to keep that momentum rolling into tournament play. And you'll get a couple of basically warm-up games to get ready for some of the better teams. So with us talking about the women's, there is.
Can I ask you one question?
Yeah, I'd love to.
About the women's?
Yeah.
When we assuming, I think it's going to be pretty chalk. That's just how it's just. I don't see a Caitlin Clark, down in a 3 or 4 seed that's going to scare the hell out of you enough to where it's like, now we won't end up with like 3 1 seeds and a 2 or something like that in the Final Four. I think UConn is the best team in the country. I think UCLA is right there. They both have something that you mentioned that can we have that of when they need a bucket, they know where they're going to go get a bucket. And it's not a question. What's the best matchup? If we get to the Final Four, and let's just say it's ones across the board and South Carolina's the other one. We know we can beat South Carolina. We're very familiar with Don, and I know they eliminated us last year in the Final Four, but we only scored 45 points in that game. What's the best matchup? What's the best path for you? Because I'm sorry, I don't want to play UConn.
I want no part of them.
I want no smoke with that.
In a dream world, if we were just saying, hey, we went to a natty, like how do we do it? Like I would draw that up with no UConn involved. I mean, I'm just saying I respect the program. They're big, they shoot well, they pass well, they're smart as hell. You see what they did to South Carolina last year. Like I'm just saying, like I'm good. Like UCLA, take them down. We'll see you in the natty while we handle Don again in the Final Four. So we got that motivation from last year. I'm not trying to say we can't beat them because I think on our best day, we're equivalent to both those 2 teams you mentioned. But I do think our floor is a little bit lower because we can have offensive woes at times. We can go on long spurts and struggle to score the basketball. And then again, I think sometimes
they'll put a coverage on Maddie, right? That's the thing. Jordan Lee, Aaliyah Crump. Can we knock down shots when these teams ultimately start hedging everything on Booker, right? And now it's these crazy tough 2s that she had some tough 2s in the SEC championship game. Mm-hmm. Now she was making them because she's her,
Yeah.
But like those were tough shots, Cord.
Yeah.
Right? Like
very high on the shot difficulty meter. One thing I'd be curious to see is how exactly they play her. Like, do they play her just straight up intense one-on-one, try to force her into difficult 2-pointers in the mid-range game with hands in her face? And then if she's able to knock some of those down, then they start to bring the help, because either way, it's going to be it's going to be important for the role players in that one for Texas to really step up and have some of their bigger games, that you've seen them have throughout the season, know that it's capable. They're capable of it. But yeah, curious to see, man. I'm excited for it. Again, love both the men's and women's teams a lot. It would mean a lot. Just I'm a big basketball head, man. We need this, Steve. We need a title, man.
I'm proud of them. I wish the men had the level of energy, effort, care, passion that the ladies show.
Smarts.
The basketball IQ, right?
Woo.
Let me just start here. What occurred yesterday versus Ole Miss was unacceptable, in my opinion. It's March. I'm watching guys getting smoked, and I know Vogt falls for every ball fake in the book. That's nothing new. That's on every scouting report. Okay, but Vogt aside, even when they were subbing him out because he's unplayable, and you got to go with Nick Cody, you should not be giving up layups and dunks in half-court sets in March. You're not serious.
That happened a half dozen times.
You're not serious. Brother, we've won one basketball game since February 21st versus A&M. With the season on the line, after getting all this momentum, after finally getting over 500 in the SEC, a down SEC, by the way.
Very down, in my opinion.
Compared to last year, where the number 1, number 2, number 4, number 5, number 7, and number 9 team were all in one conference. Right now, there's only one top 10 team in the SEC. It's Florida. After that, it goes down to like Arkansas, Bama, Tennessee, and Vandy. It's not killers like that in the SEC this year. That was unacceptable. The level of effort. Ole Miss has won 4 games in the SEC. 4. And I know that a lot of their games they've lost at the end, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. The season's on the line, bro. Because now people are like, oh, we might get to go to Dayton Court and try to work our way in. Bro, I'm done with the squad, bro. I hate to say it, like, I'm not done with Sean Miller. Like, he needs to reset. This is a disappointing first year for him. Sark had a disappointing first year at Texas. He was able to rally the troops and fix it. Ain't nobody, because some of y'all don't listen. Some of y'all just assume because we said it's disappointing that we don't like the coach or fire the coach. No. Both things can be true. The recruiting class looks good. I like him going away from some of the guys that are here because some of these brothers weren't here for the right reasons, apparently, or clearly to me, at least on the floor. But what occurred yesterday was unacceptable. And the fact that we're talking about Dayton on a Thursday with some of the automatic qualifiers still outstanding, y'all know Miami of Ohio lost today.
Yeah.
So the MAC is going to get another person in the tournament. You better hope it's Akron. If it's not, eventually Texas is going to be screwed.
They don't have as much wiggle room as they had a few days ago. That's for dang sure. It's getting dicey.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to yell at you.
I love being yelled at. I get hype right now. I'm pissed off at the way the performance was. Again, apologies for saying that, but I mean, it's facts, man. It was bad hoops all the way around. The IQ that we played with on offense, the decision-making that we had, the way that we just were carefree and just gave the basketball away repetitively, Jordan Pope had a really, really rough performance. We were soft yesterday, brother. We got punked. And, I mean, listen, I'm going to root for the guys. It is what it is. If you're and I got comments on it last night on Twitter, if you're on the fire Sean Miller train or like you're really like, brother, this is year 1. And Texas had one of the best offenses it's school history. Okay, they ran into a little bit of a wall here.
This is where we are in social media, Cord, where we can't any critique. We go to this extremism type stuff instead of having a nuanced basketball conversation about right now.
Right.
Nobody is saying fire anybody in terms of the coaching staff. Now, if he wants to make tweaks, that's on him. We know it's his first season. What we are talking about right now is how they're finishing this season. That is unacceptable. I don't care if he's in year 1 or year 10. I don't care if he's Coach K. Losing 5 of your last 6, losing a rivalry game on your home floor to OU,
and then the
losing to Ole Miss. Those are 2 quad 2 losses back to back. You've won 1 game since February 21st. I'm not saying fire the guy, but it's also saying, hey, come on now. This isn't what we signed up for either.
Right. And now it's tough for me because, I mean, I'm going to own it. Like, guys, I said this team wouldn't win 5 SEC games coming into the year. I did not like the way that it meshed. I did not like the way that we were playing basketball in non-conference. I had very, very little confidence that they'd make the NCAA tournament. And so because of that, like, I have been, honestly, my expectations for Sean Miller have been way blown through the roof, to be honest, because I didn't think this team, we don't have a true point guard. And I don't think that, we really have the bigs. Like, it's like, with all due respect to Modest, there's just not a lot in that bag on the offensive end. Okay. We foul the crap out of people. That's very well known. We go on stretches of defense where it looks like we're playing with 2 people on the floor, and the rest are, I mean, I'm just being honest. It gets really ugly at times. So I've been proud of what he's pulled out of this group. But like Steven just said, not proud of the effort and the display of basketball that we had last night. And again, going to root for them if they make a tournament game or NIT, whatever. I'll be there rooting. That's just who I am. I love hoops, love Texas. But at the same time, last night, call it how it is. It was an embarrassment, man, because again, we lost to Chris Beard, as Chris mentioned up here. I mean, that stinks. Yeah, but it's just the way that it happened. The way that they kind of punked us and bullied us inside, gave up way too many layups, gave up way too many dunks, gave up way too many putbacks. Ole Miss wanted that game a lot more than Texas, and that was very, very evident in my eyes. And that, in our position, that makes it really, really hard to swallow. So, yeah, Modest is up and down. And again, this is a guy that'll probably only get better. He hasn't played this level of basketball. But again, effort, man, like that effort, the effort is what can't be up and down. You know what I mean? And I'm not just saying him in general, but like multiple guys, the effort, the decision-making, if you have those 2 things, you can go so far with that. Okay. And rest of the things can start falling into place. Texas had neither last night, and that's clear as day. And you know what, Steve? Maybe we deserve to go to the NIT for this finish, losing 5 out of 6, losing to an Ole Miss team who had lost 12 out of 13, if I'm not mistaken. Losing the rivalry. Miller, like that stinks. Once you get to that point, you can't have that type of fall off. He's not freely and just innocent. We're not just saying, oh yeah, Sean. No, not on Sean. Nothing he did was wrong here. It's all on the players. They're not saying that. But I have no issues with how this year's gone for Sean Miller from a coaching perspective. I know that this roster will look a lot different via NIL than a transfer portal recruiting. He's got some more offense. He's got some straps coming in as far as shooters. He's got some shooters coming in. And again, shooting, it seems it's always, are we ever going to have the teams, man, where we're just like, man, we just shoot the lights out, men's and women's. Like I feel like we're asking for shooting for both sides every day.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, and Chris Beard said this a long time ago, and I think he was astute in his assessment of college basketball. It is a 1 to 2 year transition period, right? And if you think about it, yes, he had to keep some of the incumbents coming in, Weaver, Pope. Pope actually, in theory, fit what he wanted to do he went out of his way to keep Pope.
Right.
Like now, Tremont Mark was not a fit. Now, he had some games where he, did his thing and was able to get to his left and get to his midi and blow up A&M. Cool. There's other games where it's just like, are we good on that, bro? you can go ahead to your next endeavor. Not getting Ryan Conwell was the first sign of like, hey, when he went to Louisville and didn't follow him with Swain, that was a concern for me, because now I'm like, hey, what are we doing with point? Because Jordan Pope's not a point guard. Right. And I've said this, anybody that's listened to me talk about basketball, I've told y'all, that brother's the shortest 6'2" player I've ever seen in my life. Ever. He's the smallest, softest 6'2" player I've ever seen, but he could shoot. And there were some things offensively, especially off the dribble, that are very much in vogue with what Sean Miller wants to do and deploy.
Good point.
I think, the thing is, Traore is the only real bad luck thing that happened with Sean Miller from an injury standpoint, because I don't know if I think he may be done with basketball with some of the issues he's having. I hope that's not the case and the brother can find whatever, but that was somebody that would have helped defensively, would have helped with intensity,
Right.
and a lot of those things. He never even got to play for him as Xavier, right? Like, so, I mean, I think Traore's just done. Like, it's a health thing. But he didn't have the bad luck that Ronnie Terry had with injuries last year.
Sure.
Ronnie Terry only had his starters for 9 games, and they made the tournament. These dudes were relatively healthy all season. And he brought Swain here, and Swain is going to be an NBA player next year. And I like the way Swain has developed, by the way. And you're right about him fixing the offense. This was a competent Texas offense pretty consistently all season long. And I always said that would be more aesthetically pleasing to Texas fans and Moody than the dysfunction of the previous staff offensively and what they were doing. However, when you're in March, it's about the 50-50 balls. It's about the extra possessions. It's about no dunks, no layups. You're playing basketball like you're playing in pickup, like, hey, it's 14-14, and it's no win by 2. We're going to 15. That's how March is, the whole game. Okay? And we rolled out there with none of that. And so portal-wise and eval-wise, he's going to have to hit on it. Goosby's, you got a killer coming in. We get that. You got some shooters coming in. The recruiting looks promising. They're going to have to hit and get the right type of pieces and get a solid lead guard that he trusts on both ends that can coordinate the attack, but also get you set defensively. Texas did not even have that this year, right? That's why it's an Olay to the paint. And then you have a big that don't want to guard people anyway. He's just a foul merchant on the other end. So, yeah, it was a bad fit. We get that. But what lessons will be learned? And I know Chris Ogden's here and he's the GM, but I'm going to go here and say this. I need some uptick with him, too, on managing this program in terms of the type of guys that we're looking for and evaluating. I know there's a brother at UNLV I think we're looking at and some other guys, but he was the one, Sean Miller was the one that decided to keep Chris Ogden as the GM because he was Rodney Terry's GM. And now we have the same GM year over year. And so people are talking about, oh, these are Rodney Terry guys. Chris Ogden is the GM now. I know we don't like to talk about these things, but let's keep it a buck. That's all I'm saying. Okay? So with Sean Miller, let's keep the offense flowing. You're going to get some better shooters, but you're not winning shit if you have this type of effort on the defensive side.
Yep.
And just in general in March. You're not. I don't care how fluid your offense is and how good your ATOs are. You're not winning in March.
No, that's well said, man. He does. The most aggressive team wins in March. Like, that's just how it goes. Who wants it more? Who's willing to do the dirty stuff to get it there? Again, Texas didn't have effort, didn't have heart last night. I don't think it's that they don't have it. It's just that it comes in waves, and sometimes that wave where we don't have it is a really, really damn big one, and that is an issue. And so, yeah, I mean, for me, man, you just got to be scrappy. You got to want it a little bit more, and also tie that into some good basketball knowledge and decision making. And I mean, again, as we've been saying, those things take you a long way. It's the simple things, man. Things that you think like, hey, we're going to get that. We're going to get guys who are, our guys are going to make good decisions, and they're going to give effort. They're going to play smart. They're going to be tough and match the intensity or physicality from another opponent. And just, it kind of feels like we went over 3 last night, to be honest with you. So can't do little things wrong.
Those, and this is the last thing I'll say on the basketball talk, because I know we're about to wrap. All those things you described and what Orange here described in the comment about effort, heart, and the physicality and the ingredients of March, that 29-win 2023 Texas team that went to the Elite Eight, They weren't the most aesthetically offensive pleasing team, but they had all that stuff.
Yep.
They had all that stuff. And when it mattered, whether it was Marcus Carr, whether it was my boy forever, my boy, Sir Jabari Rice, they could get a bucket. When it really got real, they could get a bucket. But they were tough up from the guards, even down to Timmy, in the mid-range, down to Dylan Dessou when he started balling, and Bishop. They had people that were going to fight you in the phone booth in March. Mm-hmm. That's how that team was built. They weren't shooters. They weren't, but they fought hard. They compete until they got eliminated by Miami. They fought hard. And if Dylan Dessou had played in that Miami game, maybe they go to the Final Four. Now, I do think UConn was going to blast anybody off the face of the earth that year.
They were.
But at least we would have gone to the Final Four.
Texas probably beats Miami and probably has a good chance to go to the national championship. Yeah. I will say this, that team, you knew that the heart of that team was, 10 times.
There was no question.
No question. Marcus Carr, timely shot making, just dog, you know what I mean? Guys that wanted the ball with the game on the line. Everybody is like, well, hey, I'm going to get my opportunity. I'm going to eat, and everybody had a good role in that team. They fit well together. They played for each other. And like you said, man, they were going to box you up. You come to the paint, there's no coming to the paint free, get a layup without getting a little bit of a blow somewhere, catching a hand, catching an elbow, catching a shoulder. You know how it goes, man. You got
what layups and dunks were they giving up in half court sets?
Yeah.
In postseason games, in half court sets, right? Not fast break, not off of a long rebound. I'm talking about set up. 20 seconds is gone off the clock, and now they're getting a dunk. Come on, bruh. I'm not serious. That 2023 team, that they had that's what you're looking for in terms of the character of your basketball team and the heart that it takes to win in March.
Yep. And again, it's 1 year, Sean Miller. Let's see what he does to fix things on that end of the ball as well. I know that the offensive side will get improved. He'll continue to add guys that he feels fits can do that. But like Steve said, man, you're going to play championship basketball, and this is not something that obviously Texas has a history of doing. And that's not knocking the history. Rick Barnes had a good time. There's times, Terry had a good team. Listen, nobody wants it more than us. We would do a lot of dirty things, I feel like, between Steve and I both, for Texas to win a national championship. And on the men's side in particular, you don't even know, man. TJ Ford and that team, they still live deep in my heart. And I hated Carmelo for such a long time because of that. I hated Jerry McNamara. I hated
Hakeem Warwick,
who came in there and was hitting mid-range with hands in his face. 18-footers didn't matter. 15-foot pull-up didn't matter. I was 14 years old and cussing, I'm pretty sure. I was furious in that game, man. They shot 60-something% in the first half in the field. It was ridiculous. We scored 82 points and lost by double digits. It's hard to stomach, man. It is what it is. And
that was a good defensive Texas team. Royal Ivy was lockup.
It's Royal Ivy. And
Royal Ivy was lockup out there.
Brandon Mouton and James Thomas, who could move down there. And, and we had dudes, you know what I mean? But, obviously that Syracuse team was pretty special. And then to watch us get just, absolutely just floored, when we play in the Elite Eight with the Memphis game, and just the way that one hurt just as bad, but in such a weird way, because we had so long to realize what the reality was there. And again, Texas has some fun hoops teams. We want them to cross that finish line, man. And Sean Miller and his team, they're far from doing that, but let's see what steps they take to get there. Anything else, brother?
Nah, I know David said, healthy Dylan Dessou. People forget that those first couple tournament games and the SEC tournament, he was on a heater. Best player.
Xavier, he started 6 for 6.
Xavier, Xavier game, he only played 2 minutes, and then he was done.
Which game am I thinking where he came out in the first half and just went nuclear?
It may have been the Penn State game. Remember how hot Penn State was?
It was Penn State. Yeah,
they blew up A&M in the first round with a million threes.
I knew it was navy blue. I knew, you know what I mean. And we came out there. I feel like everybody shot lights out there. That was a lot of fun. Penn State did come into that one really, really hot. Fun team, man. That Miami second half was actually, it's funny. Me and Eric, me and Eric just hung out the other day, and we went back to the place that I watched the second half of that Miami game in. I hadn't been back there since. I was like, this place is the bad voodoo, but Eric wanted to go over there, so we went over there, and then he beat me in pool 5
You got to
consecutive
go
times.
sage
So
the
I walked in there just like with a scowl, pissed off a little bit. People are looking at me. I'm like, the vibes are bad here. Y'all wouldn't understand. But no, there was a lot of sad Longhorn fans in there that day. I'll say that. But Steve, hey man, appreciate you being here, man. It means a lot. Chris, DKW, appreciate you checking in as always, guys, and always showing us the show love and support. Joshy, if you're still out there listening, thanks for getting involved in the comments. Kodak, my man, always appreciate you, guy. But yeah, guys, hop on over to Inside Texas and keep up with everything Texas football, Texas everything throughout this off season. And some of these seasons are coming to an end, but cross your fingers on good news for Texas basketball that maybe they're in Dayton, maybe they're not, maybe they get lucky, but there is a chance that Texas does not get into that dance. So just be ready for that. Keep those fingers crossed. Baseball rolling. They got Ole Miss coming to town tomorrow to open SEC play. Softball still rolling. SEC play around the corner for those ladies as well. So
serious programs.
They're 3-0. They're 3-0 already. Yeah, real program. So we talked about football seems pretty serious. Basketball, women's serious. Men's working on being serious. Softball, baseball is real as it gets. Texas baseball, that pitching is very, very special. And then the softball team opened up with that sweep against the feisty South Carolina team, a pretty underrated, by the rankings, in my opinion, South Carolina team. They played pretty well against the Lady Horns. But hey, Texas softball 3-0 in SEC play as they go and defend the Natty, baby. But hey, thanks for watching IT. We'll catch you next time, guys.